So, I mean, we're used to straw man arguments from the Conservatives, but not actual straw man policies, not banning things that nobody is advocating. If Sunak is currently defining himself by what he's not doing, does this give us any idea what like any shape of a campaign might be? Or is it going to be like the kind of the silhouette, the kind of reverse hologram? Here's all the things we're not going to do and try and work out what we are going to do from that.
Well, I think
halo.
Oh, God. So my main worry is that, we've got Rishi Sunak, who's now like, well, all these things no one had ever mentioned before. To be clear, we're not going to do them. But then we do also have Keir Starmer, who's like, well, I'm not confirming we'll do anything. Because all his thing is people going, oh, well, the Tories are, let's say, reversing this or reversed this a few years ago. Would Labour bring it back? And he doesn't say he will. So there's a genuine prospect we'll have an entire, and I'm sure it'll change, I'm being glib. But yeah, I'm just picturing a campaign when, Rishi is just like, well, I'm not going to do things you've not heard of. And Keir Starmer is like, well, I'm not doing anything either.
So then Ed Davey bursts on stage and says, I'm not doing anything either.
Yeah. And we just sit there for 6 weeks.
May I make a correction, which I think makes all the difference in terms of comedy? He didn't just ban or say he's not going to do this stuff. He said he scrapped them.
That's true, yeah.
Which to me makes a big difference. He was going, mate tax, I've scrapped it.
Oh, yeah.
Having to sort your stuff into 7 bins, I've scrapped that too. And it's like, so it's not just, I'm not going to do these things. There was a suggestion that you're already being made to do that, which would have confused a lot of people.
Oh, God. That would have been such a funny speech, actually, to be like, you know how you've not been allowed to eat meat for like weeks and months now? And just everyone watching that going, is he having a stroke?
Shit.
Like, is he what? Your 7 bins currently outside your house.
I do have relatives, though, who have maybe 2 bins who think they've got 7 because it's like we've got loads of them. Loads, you've got 2. Loads, 7, dozens.
I think, he really should have gone for like postmodern, like weird. Yeah.
Alex, defending Sunak on Sky against criticisms from Zach Goldsmith. Kemi Badenoch said that Goldsmith's not in touch with the British people because he's too rich. This is a funny way to defend Rishi Sunak, isn't it?
It does seem quite a risky line to take, doesn't it, when the Prime Minister's swimming pool heating bill is apparently more than the average family's annual energy bill. So, yeah, I feel that might come back to bite them. But I think she was riffing at that point, which is something Kemi does quite a lot, I feel. She thinks she's really quite smart and can just freelance a little bit on topics that she hasn't been briefed on and gets in quite a lot of trouble. It's interesting.
The bit of policy that actually was real was the rolling back of the diesel and petrol car policy. And some of the biggest names to come out against it are Ford and Aston Martin, who've been investing on the proviso that the deadline of 2030 was real. They could plan around it. Sales of petrol and diesel cars will be immovable. This came as something of a surprise to them, and they weren't very happy. If MPs won't tell Sunak that this is a terrible idea, is he going to listen to Ford and Aston Martin? He's going to listen to business.
Look, I don't think so, because none of this is based in reason. And just to put the funny side of these things aside for a moment, if we go back to the HS2 story, it has something in common with this rolling back of green subsidies story. At a time when Britain is seen as not the most reliable international partner, at a time when the UK is not seen as the most not volatile environment in which to invest, I think beyond whether HS2 is a smart thing to do or not, or green subsidies should go ahead, and cars phased out in 2030 or 2035, I think what is at stake is a reputational thing for inward investment. Like, cancelling HS2 13 years into the project is going to cost a huge amount of money from people who have been enticed to invest in that area because the train will go through it and now find themselves in the middle of nowhere. A government has to follow through. There comes a point where the debate needs to end on an issue. And I think that's why the UK is so poor at delivering projects. The debate is always open. The political debate behind the project, whatever it is, the new runway at Heathrow. I mean, I'm not saying you should be for or against these things. But I'm saying there's a time to be for or against these things, and a time at which a decision is made, and you have to see it through. You can't, the nuclear power stations. How many times have we had a new nuclear power station announced and then gone back on 2 years later?
What I don't understand is what is the supposed electoral advantage now when we're like I say, probably less than a year away from an election?
They're in a panic. It's blind panic. That's all it is. They know they're going to get a pasting, and they know that the general feeling behind that pasting is it's time for a change. And there are only two defensive strategies against this, right? The first is to say, now is not the time. Major in 1992 did that. Now is not the time. But this necessitates an appreciable improvement in things so that you can say to people, look, we're doing it. We're almost there. Give us a bit more time. The second is to present yourself as the insurgent. Johnson did that successfully in 2019. This is what they're trying to do. To present yourself as the insurgent after you've been in government for 13 years necessitates turning over a few tables and breaking some stuff. And the problem for the Conservatives is that they have such a lack of legacy. There are so few policies. Like, what are their big policies that they have implemented in the last 13 years that someone could come in and reverse to show that they're a new person with fresh thinking, and actually they're not a continuation of the previous government, but a change, right? There's nothing. So they're coming in and they go, what is there? Oh, HS2, kick that. Green, net zero, kick that.